on the halfway line towards the end of the game because of the thick fog, but it's 1-1. Ireland, you have to say, with that away goal, are the favourites, but don't write off Bosnia.
An advantage Hungary. 1-0 they lead going into the second leg against Norway in Budapest on Sunday.
And the man of the match was Gabor Kiraly. Do you remember him, Lee? He seems like he's been playing forever. He's famous, of course, for wearing grey tracksuit bottoms throughout his career. He won his 100th cap on Thursday. 39 years old now. Played for Crystal Palace for over 100 games. Still going strong. And Hungary have home advantage in the second leg. What a story if they can make it for the first time since 1972. And what a story if Gabor Kiraly can play at the Euros when he's 40 years old.
Only one team have qualified for the players after losing the first leg, so good luck to Norway. Other qualifiers, other playoffs, they're underway, aren't they, between Ukraine and Slovenia, John?
Very early stages. We've had about 17 minutes. It's 0-0. The Slovenians going into this game on a 3-match unbeaten streak. They finished third in Group A behind England and Switzerland. And Ukraine have an awful record in playoffs, Lee. They failed in 4 World Cup qualifying playoffs, and they lost a playoff for Euro 2000 as well to Slovenia. But 17 minutes gone, Ukraine 0, Slovenia 0.
And ahead of the playoff in Stockholm between two Scandinavian neighbours, I went to visit both countries. Sweden against Denmark, very close in terms of geography. What will separate them on the pitch? Will Sweden's Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I wonder, have one more big tournament in him? Or could the Denmark manager Morten Olsen sign off fittingly after 15 years in the job by qualifying his team through to those finals in France? Well, I went to both countries, spoke to two legends, two Champions League winners who've played in World Cups and European Championships. First, the former Swedish captain Henrik Larsson, played over 100 times for his country. He's now the coach of the Swedish side, Helsingborg, and after missing out on the World Cup in Brazil, Larsson told me qualification is vital.
It's very important that we go there. It's very important for the Swedish FA in order to get the money, in order to be able to do the things that they are doing for Swedish football. It's also for the interest for football, for the kids that are growing up today, to see the Swedish national team playing in the tournaments. It's going to attract new players for the Swedish game, which is very important. In terms of being our neighbors, it doesn't make it easier. The Danish team is maybe a little bit more evenly balanced than the Swedish is.
So what do you think is going to be key then at the time? Clearly Zlatan Ibrahimovic provides that X factor, doesn't he, for Sweden?
I think he's the one who's going to be the difference. If we're going to have a chance, he has to be on form. Simple as that.
And you played in World Cups, European finals yourself. Where do you see the Swedish team at the moment? They've struggled of late to qualify, and that is with Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the side.
Yeah, but I said sometime that you need more than one player. What I miss in the Swedish team is the players. We need more players on a higher level in the hierarchies, in the teams that they're playing in the leagues. Either if they're playing in the Premier League or in La Liga, they're playing in League One or where in Holland. They need to be the top players of the team because they're going to take the confidence of being a star player in the team. They're going to bring it to the national team, and everything becomes that much easier.
Would you like those worries one day as the national team boss?
I said all along that if I'm good enough and if the question comes in the future, I always have to take it into consideration. But now my focus is on Helsingborg here, and I also said that I like to work with the players on a daily basis, which you don't do when you're a coach manager for the national team.
Well, after my trip to Helsingborg to see Henrik Larsson, who may one day be the national team manager, I moved on to Copenhagen, where the second leg will be held on Tuesday. I met the former Champions League winner with Milan and the Aston Villa defender in the Premier League, Martin Laursen, and he told me what it feels like to play in this Scandinavian derby.
Well, it's like playing a local derby, just for your country. There's no hate between Denmark and Sweden. It's just a big competition, you know, who's best. And it's two teams that is not an uphill. It's more like a downhill.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the quality of the players. Denmark has been struggling for some years now. I can just see that the players that are playing now They play perhaps in Denmark, or they play for smaller teams in Holland. Not big players playing for the best teams in Europe like it was before, 10, 15 years ago. When the players are not playing for big clubs in Europe and they play in Denmark or smaller teams, then obviously the national team is not going to do as so good, I mean, hopefully it will change, because there's a lot of new young players. They perhaps need time to develop and to come to a bigger club.
Do Denmark have anything that can match the X factor then that Zlatan Ibrahimovic does bring to Sweden?
Christian Eriksen, we've seen in England and sometimes with the Danish national team as well, that free kicks. If we have a free kick near their goal, then he can put it in. He's done that for Tottenham, and he can do that for Denmark as well. He has something, but not like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Obviously, if he's there on the day he plays his best football, then Denmark is going to struggle, because we don't have anyone like him.
How do you stop Zlatan then? If you were in the centre of defence facing him at the weekend, how would you stop him?
Yeah, like Denmark has been doing the other times that they've played against Sweden and played against Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Not to give him space, because obviously he can score goals, but he's really good creating chances for his teammates, and he can see the game like no one else. Technically, he's really, really good. So obviously, not to give him so much space on the pitch and be close to him all the time, wherever he is.
You've been part of successful teams. Denmark have won the European Championship in not so recent history. Realistically, though, now, what do you think they can achieve? What level are we talking about for Danish football at the moment?
It's not to win the championship, it's to participate in it. And then we all know that in 3 games, you mentioned in '92 when we won the European Championship, nobody expected that. But in 1 game, in 3 games, over 1 month, everything can happen, obviously. But realistically, how we are now, then we don't belong to the big teams. Obviously, we play the playoffs. We couldn't even beat Portugal or Albania in the group. So we're there. I mean, but anything can happen when we're there over 3 games.
As Denmark's Martin Laursen ahead of the playoff between Sweden and Denmark. There's been a goal in the match between Ukraine and Slovenia. Which way has it gone, John Bennett?
It's gone to the home side. Ukraine 1, Slovenia 0. Yarmolenko with a fine finish, right-footed inside the penalty area. A good bit of skill to set up the goal for himself as well. Ukraine 1, Slovenia 0. We've had 22 minutes.
And you're also keeping across the action from Africa. We're, 3 years away from the next World Cup in Russia, but 20 teams could see their dreams come to an end this week. Are we on the brink of seeing any upsets?
We could well be, Lee. Gabon, with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in their team, were 1-0 down against Mozambique after the first leg. The second leg kicked off about 25 minutes ago in Gabon, and home advantage seems to be making the difference, because Gabon are 1-0 up already. It's 1-1 on aggregate. On Friday, Nigeria and Ghana failed to score against teams who are way down the rankings. Comoros, 177 in the world, held Ghana 0-0. Nigeria drew 0-0 against Swaziland, who are number 130. Madagascar were 2-0 up against Senegal, who fought back to make it 2-2. Sadio Mane with the equaliser. And finally, today, Lee, Algeria were 2-0 down v Tanzania. They fought back to make it 2-2. And Egypt, 7-time African champions, lost 1-0 to Chad. So we could see some upsets, but of course home advantage makes such a difference in African football.
Our African football expert Mark Gleeson also joins us now. Mark, is that a sign then that the so-called smaller African nations are improving with some of those results that John was mentioning?
Absolutely, Lee, but we've seen that over the last couple of years. And I think there's a definite trend here. They were getting better and they were being more competitive. Now they're going into games actually believing they can win, particularly at home. I watched those 2 games yesterday on television. The Comores struck the woodwork, should have beaten Ghana with a disputed offside goal late in the game. Swaziland more than took the game to Nigeria. There was no fear there at all. I think the next step now, perhaps the next couple of years, to see whether these winners actually believe they can win away from home. But certainly there are no more easy games on the continent, that is for sure.
There have been doubts about South Africa's form, Mark, as well, haven't they? How impressive were they then in their 3-1 win over Angola?
Very impressive, but you never really know what you're getting with South Africa. You know, their last 2 competitive matches, they were held at home by tiny Gambia, with respect to all our Gambian listeners. They lost to Mauritania, another one of the African lightweights in the last Nations Cup qualifiers. Then last month they go away to Costa Rica, who were quarterfinalists in the World Cup, and beat them 1-0 in a friendly. You never know what South African side pitches up. There's plenty of talent, lots of potential. You remember before the last Nations Cup qualifiers, they eliminated Nigeria and did very poorly then at the finals in Equatorial Guinea. It's a team of potential, but they really need consistency.
And what about this format then, Mark? 20 teams will have their hopes over, by Tuesday? That seems a little harsh, doesn't it? 3 years away from the World Cup.
It's absolutely horrible, and it's a direct consequence of the folly of changing the Nations Cup the hosting of the Nations Cup from every even to every odd year. It means there are not enough dates on the coordinated FIFA calendar. It means they've got to cut the groups down, and basically you will find now that it's a total of over 30 African countries, Lee, who basically have a World Cup experience that lasts, in some cases, a month, in some cases, 5 days. Let's say South Africa beat Angola, for example, on Tuesday and win easily on aggregate. Angola's World Cup started on Friday afternoon in Benguela. It'll end to sit down and look at this again, because they are depriving footballers of valuable international experience.
Okay, we'll leave it there, but I'm sure that debate's going to go on. That's our African football expert, Mark Gleeson. John as well will keep across any of the scores before we finish on Sports World. A reminder, though, of the BBC's African Footballer of the Year award. It was launched earlier on this Saturday. Who would you vote for then? Caroline Barker was in Johannesburg, South Africa, announcing the nominees. She can explain who's been nominated then and how you can make a difference.
For details on how to vote and full terms and conditions, visit our website, bbc.com/African football. And you can also SMS vote via +44 7786 2020 08. And simply text the following number for the player you want to win. So text 1 for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to +44 7786 2020 08. Text 2 for Andre Ayew, 3 for Yassine Brahimi, 4 for Sadio Mane, and text 5 for Yaya Toure to +44 7786 2020 08. Standard international text rates apply. Please check with your service provider. SMS votes are limited to 1 vote per mobile phone number, and this year's winner will be announced on Friday, the 11th of December. For full terms and conditions, head to our website.
Thanks, Caroline. In other news, in Formula One, the Mercedes of Nico Rosberg will start on pole position for Sunday's Brazilian Grand Prix, ahead of his teammate and world champion Lewis Hamilton. In Test cricket, India reached 80 without loss at stumps in reply to South Africa's first innings score of 214 on the opening day of the second Test. An unbeaten half-century from Kane Williamson helped New Zealand recover on the second day of the second Test against Australia in Perth. They are now 140 for 2, chasing Australia's 559 for 9 declared. I'll be back here in Prague with the Fed Cup final on Sports World on Sunday. What else have we got to look forward to, Sarah Mulcairns?
Yeah, we'll keep with tennis, but away from Prague as we'll be at the first day of the ATP World Finals in London. We'll also have a special hour on all things African football, featuring those contenders for the BBC African Footballer of the Year award. And amid its biggest crisis yet, athletics, we've assembled a special panel to pose the 5 key questions the sport now needs to answer, all from 16 hours GMT, Lee.
A Sports World Footballing Refugee Special on the way after the latest BBC News now with Eileen McHugh.
The Islamic State militant group said it carried out a series of attacks in Paris that left at least 127 people dead. 8 men armed with assault rifles and wearing suicide vests attacked 6 different places in the French capital. Officials say a Syrian passport was found near the body of one of the gunmen. President Hollande of France said France would be merciless in its response.
C'est un acte de guerre qui a été commis.
It is an act of war committed by a terrorist jihadist army, Daesh, against France, against the values we defend everywhere in the world. It is an act of war which was prepared, organised and planned from outside, with help from inside France.
The French government has deployed extra troops and police around the country. In Paris, all public demonstrations have been banned until Thursday. Campaigning for next month's regional elections has been suspended. Sports events have been cancelled and the Eiffel Tower has been closed until further notice. The city's hospitals say they've treated 300 people after the attacks, 80 of whom remain in a critical condition. Out on the streets, life has taken